My mother tried everything to exclude me from their Japan trip because her new family likes me more than her. Now, she's getting a taste of her own medicine. My mom Linda married Frank when I was 17, and I gained 2 stepbrothers, Tom, who was 16, and Bobby, who was 14. Frank worked in finance and had this beautiful house with a pool and a game room in the basement. The weird thing was Frank and the boys actually liked me from day one. Frank would ask about my day at school and really listen. Tom and Bobby included me in everything like I'd always been their sister. We'd play basketball in the driveway and Frank would join us after work. Linda would watch from the window looking annoyed. At first I thought she was just adjusting to the blended family thing, but it got worse. When Frank bought me a phone for my birthday just like he bought the boys, Linda said I was taking advantage of his generosity. When Tom asked me to teach him guitar, Linda said I was showing off. When Bobby wanted me to help with his science project instead of her, she accused me of trying to replace her. Frank noticed Linda being cold to me and asked her about it. She said I was having trouble accepting her happiness and needed time. That was a complete lie, but Frank trusted his new wife. The boys kept inviting me to stuff, and Linda kept making excuses why I couldn't go. She'd suddenly remember I had chores when they went to the movies. She'd say I was grounded for something tiny when Frank took them to baseball games. She'd claim I was sick when they went out to dinner. I'd find out later when the boys asked why I didn't come. The Japan trip was Frank's idea for our first family vacation. He announced it at dinner and the boys started planning everything we'd do together. Linda smiled and said it would be perfect for the 4 of them. Frank corrected her and said 5, all of us. Linda's face twitched, but she agreed. For 3 months we planned as a family. I learned basic Japanese phrases to teach Bobby. Tom and I researched places to eat since we both loved trying new food. Frank let me help book hotels since I was good at finding deals. Linda just watched and said nothing. 2 weeks before the trip, Linda told me I wasn't going. She said Frank's mom was sick and someone needed to stay with her. This was news to me since Frank's mom lived in Arizona and we lived in Ohio. Linda said she was flying in and needed care. I asked Frank about his mom, and he said she was perfectly healthy and had a cruise that week. Linda turned red and said I must have misunderstood. The next day, Linda tried again. She told me the airline called and said they overbooked. She said my ticket got canceled and there were no more seats. I called the airline myself. They said all 5 tickets were confirmed. Linda grabbed the phone and hung up saying I was bothering them. 3 days before the trip, Linda told Frank I decided to stay home to focus on college applications. Frank found that suspicious since I was a junior and had another year. He asked me directly, and I said Linda told me I couldn't go. Linda jumped in saying I was confused and emotional about them leaving. Frank looked between us and said we'd discuss it later. That night, I heard them arguing. Frank said he paid for 5 tickets and 5 people were going. Linda said I'd ruined the trip with my bad attitude. Frank asked what bad attitude since I'd been nothing but excited. Linda couldn't answer. The morning of the flight, Linda told me the taxi was full and I'd have to meet them at the airport. Then she gave me the wrong terminal number. When I got to Terminal A, they weren't there. I called Tom and he said they were at Terminal C and boarding was starting. I ran across the airport and made it just as they were about to close the gate. Linda looked shocked to see me. She actually asked the gate agent if my ticket was real. Frank told her to stop making a scene and get on the plane. On the plane, Linda tried to sit next to me, but Tom and Bobby had already claimed the seats. She had to sit alone 2 rows back. The boys spent the flight teaching me card games and Frank joined us while Linda sat by herself sulking. In Tokyo, Linda tried to control everything. She'd say we were going one place, then get upset when Frank took us somewhere else from our planned list. She'd try to split us up for activities, but the boys wanted to stick together. She suggested I was old enough to explore alone, but Frank said we stayed as a family. When Linda tried to book separate rooms at the hotel, Frank found out and made her cancel. She had to explain to the desk clerk why she'd tried to change a reservation secretly. At the robot restaurant, Linda told the host we were a party of 4. I held up my ticket and said 5. The host looked confused, and Linda claimed she had forgotten me. Tom said loudly that she'd been forgetting his sister all week. People stared, and Linda went red. She spent the rest of the show in silence while we cheered and took pictures. The temple visit was the worst for Linda. The guide spoke English,